an abandoned city with very chaotic conditions, where the place has been controlled by zombies, and in some places there are several groups of small children who are running to save themselves, and in some quiet streets there are also zombie bodies scattered. Then, children who tried to survive with conditions in their bodies full of dirt, they ran to save themselves. While running, they also shouted that they had to escape even faster, and they ran into the house quickly. Then those who managed to enter immediately closed the door with both hands. Then suddenly the door broke into splinters, which was caused by zombies forcing their way in. But in today's infected world, humans have become food for the zombies. And then the crowd of zombies entered to see them. A boy in a blue shirt pulled out a knife and stood in front of the other boy and girl, and he told them not to be afraid, because he would protect them. Suddenly, a shining, long-haired man appeared and destroyed all the zombies. A boy in blue looked with admiration at a tall white man. The man with golden armor, he told him that everything would be fine now. And then on the other hand, after the man said that he now had his goal, which was to become a warrior and follow the path of light, an old man in a white shirt and glasses was seen shouting angrily that he would never become a warrior. And after that, a man with a scar on his face was seen taking the boy by pulling his hair, and while mocking him, he said that this fool is still here. And another man was seen helping him while carrying him by holding one hand. Then the man with the scar was seen desperately asking the man with the scar to take him with him, as he argued that he was not infected and could still be safe. Then a dark-haired man in a green vest shouted that they would never take an infected person with them, as he would probably turn into a zombie. But on the other hand, it was then seen as the blue notification window was displayed and the notification said that the system change was activated and his current rank was war. He endured all the insults, ridicule, and hostility only until this moment, and now he swore that he would change his fate. Even though he swung the great sword and destroyed the most diverse and large zombies, he was getting stronger and stronger with each passing day. Then, a blue window is displayed, where it is written that the title has been changed to Fierce Warrior. A blue pentagram appears in front of him, and in the black robe, a blue window is displayed, where it is written that the title has been changed to the title of Black Mage. A blue window is displayed, where it is written that the title has been changed to the title of the highest level scientist. And then on the other side, in a Crusader training school, there were boys and girls in blue and white uniforms walking up the stairs, and a man in a white shirt and sunglasses was sitting at a table with a cup of drink in his hand, and in front of him was a stack of sheets with a big red cross. He desperately begged the teacher to give him another chance. The teacher suddenly threw a bundle of papers at the young man and he fell to the floor. The man said that Ling Wen Xing had tried to awaken his ability 6 times, but it was all in vain. He shouted that he would never become a soldier. The man with glasses was the dean of the Academy of Warriors, a B-rank soldier and a former member of the scientific research group. Ling Wen Xing, who had been a man without a rank for 17 years, he dropped out of the Warrior Academy and thought that no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to pass the exam, even on the 6th attempt, and really he was never destined to be a warrior. A book flew into his head. Then, the young man's head scratched the sore part and shouted that it was very painful. He looked up and saw a blond young man floating in the air. His name was Ling Yutao. He was 16 years old. He was the younger brother of Ling Wen Xing. Then later, he cheerfully greeted his brother among the lowest warriors, considered a D rank. But Ling Yutao was able to get a C rank immediately after awakening. Although he was still a minor and seemed to be a genius, Ling Wen Xing smiled at him affectionately. Later, brother sat on the top step near the Warrior Academy, and Ling Yutao said that there was nothing wrong with the fact that he couldn't get a degree from an early age. He was defending him now. It was his turn to protect his brother. When Ling Wen Xing sadly agreed and said that most likely in a few days he would return to the 22nd district, when he asked why the action took place in the year 2050, when the whole world was flooded with zombies infected with the Z virus, only people with extraordinary abilities could fight them. If he could prove himself, he would gain access to Horizon City. Ling Wen Xing was sitting with his head down amongst the mockingly smiling people in blue and white uniforms. The academy warrior whose abilities had not been realized was expelled from the academy. After reaching adulthood, a girl with purple hair and a long red skirt was walking down the street. Ling Wen Xing blushed and called the girl Zilan. Ling Yutao happily shouted, calling her a sister-in-law, saying that they were here. Ling Yutao called her by a scary name, and Ling Wen Xing asked him not to shout. Zilan said affectionately that she was happy to see Ling Wen Xing. Ling Yutao told his brother to chat with Zilan, and it was time for him to leave. Then, Ling Wen Xing asked her not to leave him, Ling Yutao wishing him luck. She called him lovingly, Ling Wen Xing thought, that he had been so eager to try to overcome the personal rank for several years that he could not find time to talk to Zilan at all, and he should chat with her. At least before leaving, the young man said that he was very lucky to meet her here. Then, Zilan said she wished he could awaken his ability. Suddenly, a man with a scar appeared from behind and grabbed Ling Wen Xing's hair. He told his friend's friend to see how this fool came to date a girl. The name of the man with the scar was a Li Wei. His rank was metal-style soldier. He was of rank D, Ling Wen Xing asked. What leeway to let him go? Zilan angrily asked what they were doing. Ling Wen Xing thought that the man with the scar was jealous of his younger brother for the past 2 years, because he was much more talented than him, but he couldn't express it in front of his face because he was afraid, so he vented it on him. He pulled a piece of paper from the young man's pocket. He asked him to return the item and grabbed it. The sheet, and there was nothing wrong with it. Why? Why did it unfold? The sheet read out quickly, laughing angrily and showing everyone that the young man didn't even have 6 attempts to awaken his ability. The friend of the guy's friend laughed and said that this also happens if he fails 6 times. Are his eyes lying? He said that he couldn't understand how it could happen that Ling Yutao was a C-rank victory master and his brother was completely worthless. And were they actually relatives? When Ling Wen Xing was desperately swinging and shouting that he could say anything about him, but not about his younger brother. Her fist hit the injured man's armored cheek and he screamed in pain. He threw. Ling Wen Xing fell to the ground and yelled at him to get out. From here, he could be as angry as he liked, because nothing would change from this anyway. She ran up to the young man and patted him on the head. He asked her, was she sure he wanted to keep dating this worthless man? A golden light covered the girl's hand, and she started treating Ling Wen Xing, telling him not to move the man with the scar, saying she was a rank warrior therapist. She had never met anyone like him. Wei grabbed Zilan's hand. Then he said that she was very beautiful, and she better forget Ling Wen Xing. Why didn't she go with him? The girl angrily shouted at him to let go of her hand. Ling Wen Xing shouted at him to get off the island and kicked him away and told her to forget him. He was just making a fuss. He kept holding the girl against him and asked, did she really like such a worthless person? A voice was heard from above saying that he gave her a few seconds to let Zilan go. Then, Wei turned around and get scared and think what kind of depressed feeling was that the airwaves took him away from the girl. He slowed down with his iron fist and raised his head. Ling Yutao floated in the air, which said that he gave them a minute to disappear from his eyes. The armor came off, and he raised his hand in a peaceful manner, saying that they will leave now, and we go back to having fun. He waved his hand and called his friends to follow him. Then, saying that he was tired, they spat on the asphalt and left. Ling Yutao came down to earth and asked his brother how he was feeling. When Ling Wen Xing stood up and left saying that everything was fine and he just wanted to be alone, Ling Yutao called out to him again, but to no avail. Ling Wen Xing ran through the streets thinking that there was no place for this weak in this world. Only the strongest survived here. Didn't he swear to be strong and always protect them? So why is there no point of him being alone? He climbed the tower and thought that following the mercy would be a bad idea. He needs to do what he can blast. Heard below, a huge crowd of zombies appeared, among which a huge monster, resembling an octopus, protruded and destroyed everything in a row. The action takes place in the year 2050, when the whole world is completely flooded with zombies infected with the Z virus. They are very tenacious, and conventional weapons cannot cause them the slightest harm. However, only warriors with special abilities are able to fight them, but even with the presence of a large number of warriors with special abilities, people are still unable to defend their land. There is one reason for this, and that lies in the presence of mutants when going fast. While running down the stairs and thinking that there can't be any mistake, and it must be mutant zombies, he ran out of the tower and stopped in fear, looking at the pile of corpses on the ground, a huge cloud, gray smoke coming out of them. Ling Wen Xing swore and said that they were very close. He heard the plaintiff calling for help nearby, turned around. The young man saw Zilan lying on the ground. There was a terrifying growl, and a zombie with fiery red eyes came from Ling Wen Xing's corner, thinking that she was in danger. There were zombies everywhere, and he is also not a warrior. Is this really the end for him here? The zombie rushed forward with a loud growl. Ling Wen Xing shoved a huge branch down his throat, which he chewed very quickly and dropped it to the ground. Zilan tried to apologize. The young man somehow held the zombie's head, shouting at her to run away quickly because he would not be able to hold it for a long time. The zombie's head flew to Ling Yutao's side and lay down and ran towards them. Then he asked if they were okay. He said that they were having a good time here, and he was sorry that he had to spend time, finally came out for them to hug. Ling Wen Xing Chai Lan Ling Yutao said that the defenses of the Warrior Academy had been breached, and the zombies had invaded the city, and he said that he had only recently seen mutant zombies. From the tower, Wai shouted at him not to talk nonsense, because there could not be mutant zombies here. Then the mutant zombies appeared at the end of the street, and the young man said that he understood that it was very hard to believe, but he was telling the truth. He asked what they were waiting for, when they should run to a safe haven as soon as possible. Ling Wen Xing shouted that this should not be done. The man with the scar turned around and asked him to repeat. He said that they should not run to the academy. It would be better to run to the street. He swung at him and grabbed him. Bai Collar asked if he had decided to kill them all. When Ling Wen Xing said that a horde of zombies attacked the academy, they are wandering around it, and there might be survivors who are desperate to be saved. A horde of zombies led by mutant zombies especially will attack a group of people, and if they run to the academy, they will have a hard time. If they use his abilities, Ling Yutao, they will be able to destroy ordinary zombies and find a way out of here. Then he grabs your hand and demands to remove him. He and his brother will go wherever they want, and he is probably alone, and no one is holding him here. The injured man said he can't survive without Ling Yutao's power, so he will go with them, Ling Yutao and Wei, and destroy all the zombies that stand in their way. Jai Lan and Lin Wen chase them, he cheerfully said, that as expected, there were almost no zombies on the route their brother suggested to them lie. Wei snorted with displeasure, hands covered with golden light, and he leaned on it. Then later he asked what she did and realized that she had stopped the bleeding. The girl smiled with satisfaction. Ling Yutao happily shouted for them to run faster because the exit was right in front of them. He saw the army rescue squad car and said that in critical situations his brother would always find the right solution. And they fell to the ground. The green dot from the zombie bite grew rapidly on the neck of the blonde. Ling Wen Xing ran to the car and asked the military to let them into the car, because he could still be healed. The man with black hair and green vest shouted that they would never take an infected person with them, because he could turn into a zombie at any time. Ling Wen Xing shouted that Ling Yutao was a very strong soldier. He could be useful to them, and he would not leave him here, lying while shouting at them to stop talking. And if they would not leave, he would run away with his own 2 feet. Suddenly kicked Ling Wen Xing in the chest and threw him away from the car. Ling Wen Xing asked her in amazement why Zilan told him to forgive her, but she was just a simple person and she really wanted to live. So she did. The door closed and the car quickly drove Ling Wen Xing away, desperately asking them not to leave and scratching the ground with tears in his eyes. A large crowd of zombies appeared from behind. He asked, horrified, if they would die here. Later, Ling Wen Xing thought he hated himself for being so weak, and his life certainly didn't matter. but his brother was a true genius, and he shouldn't die if he was that strong. The white-haired soldier gave him a chance, just one chance to be like him. Ling Wen Xing pulled his hand forward while he was surrounded by zombies from all sides and shouted that he wanted to change his fate. A white-haired soldier appeared in front of him and said that if so, this is his chance. A light blue energy flow swept across the street, and armor appeared on the young man. A black and blue window was displayed where it was written that the system change was activated and the current rank was war. Ling Wen Xing looked in amazement at his hand, then to the mountain of zombies lying around him and thought, did he really do it? A black and blue window was displayed where it was written in big yellow letters that this was a warning about a zombie attack. A zombie jumped at the young man. He quickly jumped to the side. Ling Wen Xing said that if it wasn't for this system, then right now he would be its food. A black and blue window was displayed again where a warning about a zombie attack was written. 2 monsters. Rush at him at once, Ling Wen Xing asked. Did the system want him to choose what to do? 2 buttons appeared on the window. One of them was called Attack. The other was called Dodge. Then the young man turned to his younger brother, who was lying unconscious on the ground, and thought that if he avoided, Ling Yutao would be in danger. He remembered Zilan's cruel face, when she pushed them away, and thought that now he could only rely on himself. Ling Wen Xing's hands started moving, and he didn't understand what was happening and why his hands were moving. Then, Ling Wen Xing hit the zombie. It fell to the ground and started to vaporize in black smoke. The young man's hand was smoking, and he looked at it with interest. A black and blue window of the character was displayed where it was written that this character's name was Ling Wen Xing. His attack and evasion experience was 0, intelligence 0, physical and magical power 0. His rank is soldier, his level unknown, troops unknown. 2 light blue crystals came out of the blackened body of the zombie and flew to the handcuffs. Ling Wen Xing, he said, that he thinks he still has a lot to learn. A new crowd of zombies came to them. Then the mutant zombie moved his hands behind him. Ling Wen Xing said that whatever they need to get out of here, as soon as possible, the zombies came very quickly. The black and blue window was displayed again, where the warning about the zombie attack was written when Ling Wen Xing defeated the zombie with his fist, and thought that when he chose to avoid, his body's ability and reaction increased significantly, and when he chose to attack, his attack power increased several times. Then a light blue crystal flew to Ling Wen Xing's wrist. He thought that after destroying the zombies, experience points were given to him. The young man looked at his character window and said that if he understood correctly, then when the indicator showed the number 2, he would be able to combine the functions of dodge and attack at the same time. Wanting both, the blue window was displayed again where it was written about the zombie attack notification. When Ling Wen Xing threw back the crowd of zombies with a powerful punch, and thought that of course the number on the indicator depends on the parameters, but he still has enough strength to use attack and evasion at the same time. He took Ling Yutao in his hand and thought that it might be useful when retreating. A new experience column called Advantage appeared in the character window. Then Ling Wen Xing and Ling Yutao were sitting on the wall of the dilapidated house. The elder said that they seemed to have gotten loose and needed to take Ling Yutao as soon as possible. At this time, the mutant zombies appeared in the roar, definitely swinging at them. Ling Wen Xing screamed in fear, covering his head with his hands. A large number of windows notice an attack or display, he shouted. That it was bad. A large stream of light blue energy flowed down from the sky. Zombie attack. A person half-turned zombie was lying everywhere. On the street, the military detachment was walking along the street, his head, a black-haired man named Liu Yong, Hunter A class. Liu Yong, a rank fighter, said that everything is very sad here. Also, a green-eyed boy with glasses and a gun in his hand reported to the captain that everything is quiet. On the territory of the Warrior Academy at the moment, only ordinary zombies are seen, and not a single mutated zombie is found here. A blonde man holding a zombie on the head. Liu Yong asked if there were any survivors here. With green eyes replied that there were no survivors, but they failed to check the Warrior Academy from the inside. Liu Yong said that it is necessary to find the source of the disaster as soon as possible, and it must not be allowed. Approaching the Horizon City, a blonde man killed zombies. He was carrying a Luo Xin with very revealing clothes, quickly ran towards them and shouted to the captain that there were survivors. But something was wrong. There Ling Wen Xing was lying at the bottom of the pit, half turned around. Ling Yutao was lying on top of him. He rubbed his head and shouted the name of his younger brother. Terrified, his eyes were already red. His fangs had erupted and his hands had started to turn red. Ling Wen Xing thought that the infection rate was very high, but luckily he wasn't hurt at all, and it was good that he managed to activate Boost at that time. Otherwise, the zombies would have ripped his shreds out and needed to get Ling Yutao to the hospital as soon as possible. A military detachment appeared. The green-eyed man shouted loudly at them to stand still and pointed a gun at them. Li Young and Blonde stood up and saw Luo Xin making a golden pentagram with both hands. Ling Wen Xing looked up in fear. Liu Yong said that if he understood their speech, then he was healthy. The young man thought that judging from their vests, they were from the warrior detachment. He happily said that the captain said that first they needed to answer questions, and it would depend on whether they pulled it out or not. Then the bitten Ling Wen Xing thought that there was a cold feeling in the military men's gait, and there was no point in lying. He stood up and said that he was Ling Yutao, but his younger brother Liu Yong said that Ling Wen Xing could come to them and left the blonde in the hole. The young man said that he could still be saved. He had savings, and once he got to Horizon, he will buy medicine. The green-eyed one rudely said, "Don't talk nonsense. The medicine for infection is very expensive, and you need to be a rank soldier in order to be able to withstand the infected. Otherwise, they will devour him. Moreover, if this person is still fighting the virus, it means he is very strong, and when a strong person is infected, the possibility that he will become a mutant is very high. So it was better for him to stay away, otherwise he would also be killed." He pointed the muzzle of his gun at Ling Yutao when Ling Wen Xing stood in front of him and thought that they didn't want to listen to him, but he still wouldn't leave Ling Yutao here. Even if he had to fight with the military, he opened his character window and didn't understand why the skill slot was empty at the moment. A map appeared under all the columns displaying blue dots in larger red. One green-eyed angrily asked what he was doing. Then Luo Xin said that the vice captain is too cruel. The dark-haired man shouted at her that if they stand here and talk, they will definitely miss the mutant zombies. Ling Wen Xing wondered if they are really talking about this red dot, and shouted that he knows where the mutant zombie is, and if they leave his brother alone, he will help them find him. The green-eyed man asked, "Nonsense, what is he talking about?" Li Young remembered his sister, who is most likely sick. Then, saying that there were traces of battle here, and did they have a chance to face the mutant zombies, he replied that it was like the captain said he believed him. The bespectacled man shouted hysterically, was he really right? The serious Liu Yong firmly told him that this was his decision as captain of the troops, and asked Ling Wen Xing to take them to the mutants. But if his brother shows aggression along the way, then Ling Wen Xing interrupts him and shouts that in that case he will kill him. Liu Yong himself smiles contentedly and thinks that it will happen soon. Brother comes out of the green-eyed pit, rather rudely asking which direction the mutant went, and if he dares to lie, he might not expect mercy when Ling Wen Xing looks at the map and points at the direction with his hand, saying that the zombie mutant is still at the Warrior Academy. Then, Luo Xin rubbed her golden pentagram and said that about 195 zombies were right in front of them, 77 in the southeast. 97 zombies were heading from east to west. Terry military and Lin brothers troops stood on the roof of the building and looked down at the crowd of zombies. Ling Wen Xing held Ling Yutao, who had almost completely turned into a zombie, on his back and said that there were too many of them, and they could not do without reinforcements. Then Liu Yong said it was really a problem. Luo Xin asked the captain what his orders were. He said that this time the sweep would be done on him, and Dalai was completely covered by armor, and he jumped down, started scattering zombies. Ling Wen Xing said it was unusually heavy. The large body did not make him less fast and agile. Dalai swung the hammer at the zombies, but he stopped the blow with one hand. Ling Wen Xing shouted that it was from the Zombie Academy. still wearing a neat suit. White shirt is not dirty, even glasses are still on. A young man said, if not mistaken, then the dean's ability to increase the muscle mass of the zombie increased in size in a short time, amazing speed, and became twice as big as Dolly. The territory has been cleared, and it is possible to move a small army of warriors, so that is the strength of the current warriors. He passed by the defeated former dean. His glasses were broken, but still on his head. The crystal flew out of the zombie's body and flew into the handcuffs. The green-eyed youth said that judging from the strength of that muscular zombie, he used to be very strong. Because after the transformation, a person with a strong ability maintains it. With a certain probability, his younger brother is also strong. But does he still lose confidence in his strength? And is he ready for it? Taking responsibility after seeing what happened, Ling Wen Xing replied without hesitation that he did not change his mind because this is his younger brother. The deputy captain said that in this case he should remember that there is no harm in asking for help from the elders. Luo Xin said he was arrogant. He would announce that it was all nonsense. Liu Yong stopped raising his hand and said that something was burning here, and immediately turned around and laughed, saying that it was just Sayureji. The green-eyed man shouted that his captain was a fool and immediately turned to Ling Wen Xing and rudely asked, "Were they walking correctly? And why did it take so long, girl?" It laughed cheerfully. She replied that they were walking correctly and thought that even though she was using the map for the first time, she was sure of exactly what was shown. They came to the roof of the house. The pink-haired one rubbed his pentagram and said that there were more than 100 ordinary zombies inside the building, and some strange creatures were most likely mutant zombies. Li Young said he understood and moved the manhole cover, saying that now they would make sure that everyone looked inside and looked there in horror. A beautiful picture was revealed under the mutants, performing on stage with a song, and zombies of the Warrior Academy students were sitting on the roses of the audience. Ling Wen Xing said that these creatures attacked the academy students and turned them all into zombies. Liu Yong said that it was impossible to predict the behavior of mutants in any way. Then he said that he and Luo Xin should stay here, and they will agree to this. Don't lie, and Liu Yong jumped down. Ling Wen Xing said that if he can use his power at the right time, he will help them. He looked at the gain indicator where the score had reached 10 and thought that it was recently 0. He told the young man not to worry, because they are very strong and will overcome it. He was born in the 24th district near the city of Horizon. There are about 26 districts in total. And then they stood in front of the building. The larger the number, the further away from Horizon they were. They had nothing to say about security in the neighborhood. And then, those who were not surprised at all for people like them to survive to risk their lives to find food in a place filled with zombies. The children ran from the crowd of zombies with bags and cans in their hands. After each of them walked the road, the 4 of them were children without parents who survived. Then the last of them shared food, as if they were family. He was lucky to meet them, because they supported him, and he took food from each other. Dalai and Liu Yong saw them, but he was too naive and did not understand that luck could turn away from them sooner or later. And when that happened, only strength would save their lives. Li Young blocked them, and Luo Xin entered from the crowd of zombies surrounding them. Only strength can protect people, and nothing more. He shot the zombies, Dalai threw them away, Liu Young cut them, the mutant zombies, in half, saying that they were stronger and finished everything Ling Wen Xing said. It was amazing. Then they destroyed the zombies that were so strong and dangerous, so easily he said that actually the captain and rank and file soldiers could have worked in Horizon for a long time. But he didn't want to leave them. He stuttered and shouted that he had said too much. The young man thought that he must like the man with the beard, he said. They should go down. Then Ling Wen Xing's pink smile cared, and he went downstairs to the room on the golden pentagram. Then, when he went down to the ground and saw a blue crystal floating above the zombies, he asked, "What is it then?" he asked. "Is he afraid to see the zombie students die?" Then Ling Wen Xing understood that only he saw the crystal and it turned out that it was all about the system. His whereabouts are better kept secret, Li Young calls him and says that he helped them find the mutant zombies, as per the deal. In return, he will take them both to the hospital to ask for the antidote. A deal is a deal, and nothing can be done about it. Viewers and Dalai giggle at him in between Zio. He told him not to linger and not to miss out. Ling Wen Xing thought that this was a familiar feeling. They were good and strong warriors just like he dreamed of. Thanks to the system, right after he healed his younger brother, he would finally be able to achieve fulfillment. In his dream, he saw a fully charged gain scale and assumed that it was filled because of the blue crystal light hovering over the dead zombie. But there was no crystal above the body of the zombie mutant. The young man turned around and saw a huge black shadow shouting with all his might to Captain Liu Yong to be careful. Liu Yong turned around and saw Luo Xin being stabbed by one of them. The monster desperately called out to Liu Yong and tried to shoot the mutant, threatening him with death. Then, at the same time, the zombie killed him. Also, Liu Yong called out to them and pulled his sword from the scabbard, rushing to attack the zombie and the second fighting captain. Someone thought that his combat experience told him that he needed to use his body's potential 100%. But he was not sure if he would have time to do so. He didn't even think that he would be a candidate for a blow from the tentacles of the zombie. The mutant inflicted several wounds on Liu Yong, and he fell to the ground, letting go of his sword. Zombie Spike flew at his head, but Dalai managed to block the blow with his big hammer. He asked the captain to get out of here as soon as possible. Perhaps Liu Yong grabbed his sword and asked the man to wait. Dalai said that they were able to live so much only thanks to him, and thanked him for the next second. Zombie Spike caught up with him. The captain desperately called the blonde by the name of Ling Wen Xing, wondering how it could happen that such a strong warrior army was completely destroyed so easily and quickly. Then, the zombie mutant turned his back on him, and he completely focused on Captain Liu Yong, who was lying on the floor and tried to get up. Apparently, he did not. Notice, Lin brothers, Ling Wen Xing thought, that it is forever necessary to escape from this place together with Ling Yutao as soon as possible. But it is unlikely that the monster will allow them to do this. Ling Yutao has almost completely become a zombie. His face and hands are all gray, and some thorns have grown on his loom. The young man thought that he almost forgot that his energy indicator is 100 full, and he should be able to use the power of the system to the maximum. Now Liu Yong can barely raise his head and thought. He looked at the mutant zombies and thought that he would meet them soon, and they just need to wait a moment for the mutant zombies to raise their claws. Then, a ball of black and red energy and attacked people when he managed to bring Liu Yong out from under the blow, and he asked what he was doing. The young man said, giggling, that he couldn't leave him here to die. He thought that now Ling Wen Xing's speed was at the level of a warrior, and Ling Wen Xing, if the man was okay, he asked in amazement. What, just now the zombie attacked again, and the shockwave blew him aside. Then Ling Wen Xing managed to slow down and said that he was almost killed. He thought that it turned out that the accumulated energy indicator showed the amount of energy he could convert into power, and even his level had increased. The amount of energy had reached 100%. The young man got the third level, and the total number of skill points was 3. Ling Wen Xing thought that he had one more skill point, and should probably spend it all on improving the deflection skill to better avoid the mutant zombie attack. Li Young flatly said that now is not the time to think long. Ling Wen Xing's strength is perfect enough to fight back. The candidate Ling Wen Xing asked again cluelessly, said that this is the name of a monster that can develop in an abnormal body, and if he does not finish off such a zombie in the future, it will definitely become several times stronger than the current one. But this terrible creature fortunately can be found very rarely. He told the young man to listen carefully. The plan of attack: when the zombie mutant attacked, he would try to parry his attack, and Ling Wen Xing should hit the monster on the head, only which needs to be hit with full force. The young man thought that he had tried to inflict at least some damage on him more than once, but all his efforts were in vain. He invested all 3 skill points into the evasion skill to avoid the attack. However, it seems that points can be transferred from one skill to another. He wondered what would happen if he put them all on the attack skill. But then what would happen to the evasion? Then he saw a new window that said transformation into a zombie mutant swing blacksmith. Liu Yong shouted that he approached and applied the Eye of Truth skill by 200%. His eyes became bright blue, and he blocked the zombie spike's blow with his sword. The captain ordered the young man to attack Ling Wen Xing. However, at the moment of attack, thinking that he first needed to set his evasion to maximum and then strike a blow, Ling Wen Xing punched a big hole in the floor, but he didn't touch the candidate at all. This time the mutant zombie attacked them both from behind him, then somehow brought him out from under the wave. He asked again. Was the captain okay, who with bloody lines all over his face replied that he was okay, but he had used up all his strength, and Ling Wen Xing needed to escape from here as soon as possible. Ling Wen Xing apologized for missing the opportunity to attack Liu Yong, said that he really made a mistake, and asked if his abilities belonged to a class. Ling Wen Xing's strength didn't understand what he was talking about. The captain said that all warriors' abilities can be divided into 4 classes, such as strength, speed, skill, and energy as a rule. All warriors specialize in only one of them, and the others are relatively weak. The young man's ability also belonged to one of these classes, but he only needed to choose one. If he didn't have a warrior's weapon, then he wouldn't be able to defeat the monster. The man still didn't understand what was what. He took out a sword from his scabbard and said that a weapon like, for example, his sword, would be given that weapon. He was an additional power that could fix all the shortcomings of the warrior's ability. But at the moment he still couldn't get the weapon, as it had to go through the appropriate rituals. Ling Wen Xing remembered about the button that said transformation into a blacksmith, and thought that if the transformation suddenly failed, he should escape taking Ling Yutao. He shouted at him to take his brother and escape from here. Then Ling Wen Xing insisted on escaping with the captain, saying that if he couldn't protect someone close to him, then what was the point of continuing to go through all that? He looked sadly at the lie. The dead doll lying near the wall of the young man remembered the white-haired warrior and said that he agreed with him, so that he would protect him too. He pressed the button called transformation into a blacksmith, and was completely covered in black armor and a hammer, and a blacksmith chisel appeared in his hand. Ling Wen Xing looked at his equipment and asked, "Is he a blacksmith?" The mutant zombie opened his mouth and prepared to attack the young man, shouting to the system to make him a weapon that can destroy this monster. The hammer and chisel turned into a huge 2-handed sword. He asked in amazement if he also had a red window system, displayed with a warning that currently the energy distribution system has a very low value, and if the energy output is too large, the system may be damaged. Then when Ling Wen Xing understood that he only had one attempt and mistakes were unacceptable, he rushed to attack the mutant zombie in front. Ling Wen Xing located the mutant zombie's corpse. He was relieved and happily said that finally he was able to defeat it. Then his huge 2-handed sword began to shatter and disappear into the air. The young man said that he thought he did everything right. When he chose evasion, the combination of high-speed evasion and powerful weapons was able to kill the mutated zombie. He thought that it was really his imagination, which a moment ago this boy's strength and ability changed dramatically. A huge red crystal came out of the mutated zombie's body and began to dissolve into a wrist. The young man who cried out in pain. A notification from the system was displayed where it was written that his level had been raised to the 4th level, and the title of wizard had also been unlocked. Ling Wen Xing muttered that that was how he fainted. Falling to the floor, Liu Yong anxiously ran towards him and asked what happened and if he was all right. Then Ling Wen Xing opened his eyes, slightly, and muttered if he was at home. A healthy Ling Yutao happily said that finally the little brother had woken the young man up. He put his hand on his shoulder and asked if he was well. Ling Yutao said that he was fine and immediately became a growling zombie, that his brother was unable to save him. Ling Wen Xing woke up with a loud scream and realized that it was just a dream, and 4 were attached to his arm. He himself was wearing cute blue striped pajamas, asked how he was. Ling Wen Xing shouted again, and asked what he was doing here. He said that he brought him here and they were in the 1st District Hospital. After the fight, he lost consciousness, and 3 days had passed. Since then, Lin anxiously asked where the captain was. Ling Yutao went to the door and turned around, asking him to follow him. Whispering, they whispered that maybe their captain heard that his army was destroyed. They asked to see the bearded man with the sword. They said that he was one of his army can return. Ling Wen Xing said that Liu Yong is famous here. The captain replied that it was all thanks to him. He didn't understand what the man was approaching the door where there was a very tall soldier with a machine gun. He saluted Captain Liu Yong, said to him casually. The soldier looked at him with some disbelief. He entered after the man and stopped. Shock called his brother by name. Ling Yutao was lying on the bed connected to a set of tubes that went into the sky. The sky had glass around it. Ling Wen Xing sticks to the glass and asks how he is. Liu Yong tells him not to worry, because he has used the best medical drugs in the county, and although he is still in coma, the young man's mutation rate is stable. Ling Wen Xing thanks him, the captain says, that this is only a temporary treatment, not from Horizon at best, can only stop the infection, and as soon as the treatment stops, his condition will worsen. If he wants to save his brother, then he must go to Horizon and become a professional soldier. Then Ling Wen Xing thought that he urgently needs to get a higher rank than the captain went, and not lower than his previous rank is impossible, but not now. Liu Yong said that he as a soldier can give him a recommendation to pass the qualification exam. Ling Wen Xing asked if this is true. The captain said that before him, will the young man tell him about the power? Strangely, the men went into the corridor, and Ling Wen Xing told him everything that happened. Liu Yong said it was amazing, that he had a system that could not only change his ability parameters, but also go into various ranks to control skills. Ling Wen Xing said that he himself was very surprised by this, because in theory, the skills are divided into control, releasing transformation, and spirituality, and all of them can't be compatible in any way. The captain said that this is very likely because only 20 years have passed since the emergence of the case of such a case, and even being a rank warrior doesn't know much about it. All the information must be kept in the palace of the elders in the firmament. He informed that the qualification exam in this field would take place in exactly 1 week, and he advised him to take part in it first. Ling Wen Xing agreed, and wondered if he would be able to master this strange system. The young man clenched his fist, and decided that for the sake of Ling Yutao's health, he should do so. Then, a week later, a large crowd of people gathered near the association building. Soldier Ling Wen Xing told Liu Yong that there were tons of people who wanted to take the exam. He replied that those who came here received recommendations for promotion, and he should not underestimate their strength and power. Asks if Ling Wen Xing has mastered his abilities well. Ling Wen Xing says that a week of practice allowed him to master the system a little better. Li Young says that's good, and don't let him forget what they talked about earlier. He agrees, and remembers the man's words, that he shouldn't tell anyone about the system, because the chain of relationships within the association is very complex. So it was better not to draw too much attention from behind. The young man was called by the name of Zilan. With her he stood beside her. Ling Wen Xing turned around in turn, calling the girl by the name of my wife, asking how she survived. It was all Zilan thought. It was unbelievable, because she didn't have a single chance to survive. In that situation, Ling Wen Xing used the ability, and swinging shouted that someone like him had come to take the exam and this was just a joke. Then Ling Wen Xing easily stopped the fist of the injured man, and he fell to the ground screaming in pain. Then Ling Wen Xing asked what strength she had. Zilan tried to justify herself and said that she had to do that. Ling Wen Xing said that he would face her in the qualifying exam. Zilan looked forward in fear. Zilan asked what Wenzing was talking about. Since she was so happy with his return, she was still worried if she could survive, and they could try to start dating again. Ling Wen Xing asked if she had the courage to ask where Ling Yutao was. Zilan groaned in fear. The young man told her not to worry because he was alive, and he would understand if she left him weak. But he would not forgive her for leaving Ling Yutao injured. With these words, he went to the captain and asked him to leave here. He said with displeasure that he had to go through a lot because his body was now really hurting. He glanced at Zilan and was horrified. The girl stood in the cloud of purple flames and put her finger to her lips, asking, "How dare he talk to her like that?" She bit her finger until it bled and angrily said that she would pay for his harsh words. The action happened in the big stadium. Ling Wen Xing ran around with his last strength and thought that it was clear why physical ability was determined during the warrior's testing. Then, he remembered Liu Yong, who told him that he could not go any further with him. The exam upon recommendation consisted of 2 parts. The first would be a test of physical ability. The second would be a test of his ability. In the first stage, the use of ability was prohibited. When Ling Wen Xing looked at those who had overtaken him and thought that this is the best of the best, even without the ability to run very fast, although he has a system, but you have to pass the exam yourself. He saw a blonde girl with 2 ponytails running next to him and thought that at least he was not alone. The girl asked with displeasure, why was he looking at her? He had overtaken her. The whole circle, and in return would give up everything. Ling Wen Xing thought that now he was responsible not only for her, and speeding up, the girl thought that he was still determined. After running, the young man was barely breathing, said that he had somehow passed by and did not understand why he was alone. Of all, exhausted, a cold bottle rested on his cheek, and he shouted in surprise. He laughed, and the young man asked why he had come. He said he brought him a drink and did not expect him to run. Then Ling Wen Xing started drinking. He reported that he ran last. He spat. The girl said that he was to blame. Many sportsmasters took part in this test. Even Zhao Lin from the 2nd District, who was trained as a first-class soldier and graduated from the Soldier Academy with the highest score, Feng Yufan, a genius boy from the 3rd District, had arrived. His ability and education were at the highest level. Dun Ji Kong, a rising star who was once part of the combat troops, also arrived. That this time all who had arrived here were future elite of the horizon, and she had never heard anything about him, and he didn't look like someone who had undergone long training, and this was not an exam that anyone could pass. She hoped he understood this. Ling Wen Xing said that his name was Ling Wen Xing. He was a non-entity from District 23. Then, he had his own reasons for taking this exam, and he would definitely pass. The blonde snorted and said that she didn't expect to hear such a shallow remark. Ling Wen Xing asked who she was. He laughed at her. The girl started to introduce herself, but she was interrupted by a loud shout that the examiners had come 3 men and onto the stage. Ling Wen Xing thought that it was true. One of them, Li Yuting, was a legendary warrior, plus named Li Yuting. Seemed to be looking at her. And was she really paying attention to the system after all the examiners left the stage and came to her? But the layout approached the blonde standing beside her and said that Yun Ke had come this time too. The girl nodded happily. Li Yuting said she was looking forward to her performance. She said that she would definitely fulfill all her expectations. Then Ling Wen Xing thought that he was the 1st District number 1 and the strongest student, while Li Yuting mentioned his name and that he was the chief examiner. A huge zombie appeared behind the man's back. Li Yuting said that the 2nd test was to clear all the zombies that were behind him for some time. Then, at the moment when Ling Wen Xing said that it turned out that they were going to fight zombies, he turned to the testers, among whom was Li Young, and thought that he did not tell him that he was waiting for a battle that was supposed to be simple. Li Young thought that he himself did not know that such a test would be a battle with zombies, and who made one of the testers, Liu Ting, an unrivaled monster among the monsters. Why did he? And asked if someone scolded him. If not, why did he sneeze like that? He said that forcing them to fight with their bare hands would be a mockery of the children, so they had to wear this. The man snapped his fingers with a black and blue bracelet appeared over all the examinees. The crowd said that it just appeared. Then it glowed blue and looked quite creepy. Ling Wen Xing placed a bracelet on his hand and said it looked like a watch. A bright light came out of the bracelet and the young man had to close his eyes. The light turned into a blue jet that stuck to Ling Wen Xing's whole body and turned into a blue-horned protective suit. The other examinees wore the same cute costumes, and Yun Ke wore a very depraved rabbit costume. A yellow-black window was displayed where it was written that Ling Wen Xing's strength index was equal to 3%. he turned to the examiner with a request to suggest what the indicator meant. This increase was why he said that the equipment based on his current ability could increase combat power, and the higher the score, the stronger he was, but his 3% was a fairly low indicator. Was the young man sure that he hadn't made a mistake? In the exam, Ling Wen Xing looked at his eyes with displeasure and thought that he was a talker. He said that usually the gain rate was around 10%. The girl screamed and was surprised that his gain indicator was over 20. It was written on his window that it was equal to 25%. Xiao Lin's gain rate was 25 girls. The girl next to him excitedly shouted that he was cool and they loved him very much. If there was a new fan, the gain rate was 22%. The young man said with displeasure that he was not the highest. The girl standing a little far away from him said that he is also very handsome and number 2 in the whole world. Zhu Jikang's gain rate is 23%. There is not a single girl next to him. Why are you? Ting said that this time the examinees are quite strong. Last time there was only one person whose gain rate could exceed 20. She turned to Ling Wen Xing and asked, "Is he really not willing to back out? However, if she leaves now, she will still catch the bus." She told him not to worry. The red-haired girl shouted that the young lock's gain rate was 51%. She proudly stood in the crowd saying that 51 gains was a new record, and even at the professional level it was already an A rank. Li Yuting said that she was a rising superstar who met all expectations. Ling Wen Xing thought that her strength was not bragging. Liu Yong shouted at her that she was ordinary. And did she see how cool she was, and showed 2 fingers while Li Yuting showed her 2 fingers in response and smiled. Ling Wen Xing thought that the girl's character was very bad. The examiner said that time was running out, and he announced the 11th Warrior Selection Exam, officially open. They waited for more than 150 zombies from ordinary to abnormal. And during the exam, they will use drones to track their progress. All the zombies have been processed using Horizon's special technology, and even if they bite someone, no one will be infected. Why does he want them? No feathers or fur. And the exam has begun. The young Qi crushes the zombies on the right and left. He shouts that he will be the first to pass on the black-yellow window, and yellow is displayed where it is written that the ability has been identified, the adaptive weapon has been prepared, and the question is whether to use it. At the bottom, there are 2 buttons named yes and no. Then, he presses the button named yes. A large axe appears in the hands of the blonde, and he shouts that this is quite convenient equipment, continues to crush the zombies. Xiao Lin fights the electric fan club. Fenggu has 4 flamethrowers, and King Juji fought with his bare hands. Ling Wen Xing thought that it was choosing the right weapon for him, and therefore he would have a black and yellow window displayed where it was written that the ability had been identified, adaptive weapons had been prepared, and the question was whether to use it. At the bottom, there were 2 buttons called yes and no. He pressed the yes button without hesitation, and a bright light appeared again. Then Ling Wen Xing thought that since the light was so bright, the bracelet would probably take out something unusually powerful. A knife appeared in the young man's hand. His eyes even began to twitch in the examiner's room, laughed and told Li Young that the weapon was chosen based on the analysis of the strength of the ability, and the daredevil he recommended to pass the exam was a very funny guy. Li Young rolled his eyes. Liu Yong looked at Ling Wen Xing, who was twirling the knife in his hand, and asked if he was all right. 2 zombies rushed at Ling Wen Xing at once, but he blew their heads off with 1 blow. The knife stepped forward. While he asked what just happened in the field, Liu Yong proudly thought that this was an action that happened a week before the exam. Ling Wen Xing asked if it was really impossible to tell anyone about the system. Liu Yong said that on the day of the exam, there would be a master much stronger than him. If they somehow find out that the young man has the system, then he is completely sure that he will be taken to the secret laboratory of the Horizon for experiments. Ling Wen Xing asked how in this case he should pass the exam. Li Yun suddenly grabbed his hair. He angrily asked what he was doing. A small golden ball appeared between the captain's fingertips, and he told the young man tried to dodge by flicking his forehead. He carried far. He grabbed his head and asked, "Does Li Young want to kill him?" He replied that he just needs to have time to activate the system, suddenly dodge the blow, and immediately close it back, as only in this case he might be able to avoid attention. The unwanted examiner is too much for him. Now the man shakes hands, and Ling Wen Xing says he understands everything. Liu Yong asks if he is ready to continue now, as he intends to train the young man for a few days without sleep and rest. He clutches his head in horror and shouts that it won't be long before he will die, as Xing defends himself from the zombies and thinks of his every action he is thinking of right now. Then, from the enemy's attack, he had to activate the system, invest one of the 4 points in evasion, and another point in attack. Avoiding the enemy's attacking blow, in response with extremely high speed, and close the system, Ling Wen Xing touched his head and realized that his training was not in vain. Why, he looked at the live broadcast screen and thought that this person was not that simple. He told Liu Yong that he was very similar to him and called him brave. Then the captain agreed with everything and thought that he was very upset with this nickname, as Li Yuding said that the exam this time would not be easy. Liu Yong looked at the man with fear. Ling Wen Xing said that the exam had just started, and he had to make great efforts, and he had to fight at least 10 more zombies. A black window was displayed where it was written about the alarm, and that the zombies were approaching the young man. Thinking that it was impossible to relax in any case, with a strong blow he was thrown against the stadium wall, and his armor was badly damaged. Ling Wen Xing muttered that he completely forgot that there were also mutant zombies here. One of the mutant zombie towers was right on top of him. Black flames spurted out from it, and the young man assumed that it was a candidate again. Then, Liu Yong angrily asked why the examiner didn't warn that there would be zombie candidates, who felt like they were arranging tea drinks, and said casually that he didn't have to worry because there were 150 regular zombies and only 30 fake candidates in the arena that couldn't be compared to the real ones. Although they weren't real, but they were quite strong, and 100 times more points were awarded for their kills than regular zombies. So only people who participated in battles with mutants can pass the exam this time? Li Yong wondered why this year's examinees had such high requirements, because they certainly didn't have any combat experience. And if something happened while you were Ting flatly said that, it was because they didn't have any more time. According to reliable information, the new zombie king has only recently appeared because mutant zombies have begun to appear. It is getting more and more frequent if the examinees here only encounter ordinary zombies. Then sending them to the real battlefield is tantamount to death. They won't be able to survive there. Instead of letting them die there, it's better to let them get injured here, and maybe give, at least they will be able to live. Li Yong recalled his fallen comrades sadly and thought that everything is right, because the battle is becoming more and more fierce, and if he and others don't follow his example and become professional soldiers, then maybe they will be alive now. Then, the mutants swung at the examinees, who were screaming and terrified that if they continued, they would die here. Shouldn't they get out of the exam now? Ling Wen Xing thought that if he didn't use this system now, he was afraid he would, unable to pass the exam, and if he did, he would definitely reveal himself. Then his knife broke, it was bad, and he needed to find something that urged the mutants' attack, but he was cut in half by Yun Kar. At the same time, he proudly asked the young man if he was all right and stated that number 1 had come to save him. Ling Wen Xing thanked him and thought that he was really very strong. He had never seen anyone so strong. The other examinees, inspired by Young Ki's example and shouting since he killed mutants, then they could also not need to be too afraid of these monsters. Yun Kar rushed to attack and shouted that there was nothing bad in this and called everyone who had the courage to chase after him. Liu Ting said that it is no surprise that this girl is the representative of Horizon nobility, the daughter of a young family, not only very strong but also able to inspire her teammates. Ling Wen Xing stood beside the defeated mutant and said that the monster was still alive according to him. Since then, he was unable to use the best system to take the opportunity of finding the vulnerable place of the mutant zombie and finish it off in one blow. Directly turned on the system attack and scored points to kill the mutant zombie in his pocket. But Liu Yong managed to finish off the zombie in front of him. He happily said that it was over. It seemed that he was the last one. Then, 10 years ago, somewhere in an old warehouse in the slums, a little blonde-haired girl with 2 ponytails wearing a gray cloth with patches and holding a light blue crystal in her hand was surrounded by 3 equally ragged boys, one of them yelling at her to give them the crystal and calling her a brat. The girl yelled that she wouldn't give them anything because she found this crystal and her name was Kai, not Brad. The boys laughed, and the one in the middle, the fattest of them, said that he didn't even know who his father was and didn't want to call himself a bad boy. Swung the key and threateningly asked if he needed it to repeat. The boys got scared and asked, what was he doing? But after a while, all the boys were lying on the floor, and the key was standing over them and grinning proudly. One of the boys asked her to save them, because they wouldn't do it again. She raised her fist and said that of course they wouldn't do it again, otherwise they would regret it very quickly. He ran down the street and ran into the house, happily shouting to his mother that he was home, in the house of a girl with brown hair and a tattered white dress and bruises on her body. She was sitting on the floor, hiding her head and hugging her knees. A blond man with monocle and mustache was standing next to her and said that he was glad she was back home. Then the girl asked who he was. The man said that he was her father and had specially come for her to return her to Horizon. The girl psalmized sadly. She happily asked the mother if she had heard that she now had a father. The man took her head and handed it to her, saying that everything was the same and she had the purest blood of the young family, so it was not suitable for her. To live with a woman like her mother, she asked why the blond man said that this woman was just a servant of the young family. She gave birth to her without her knowledge and took her out of Horizon completely. The secret of her dirty blood was different from their blood and could stain her, so she had to go with him now. He looked at the girl with disgust. He let go of her hug and ran to her mother, shouting that he will not go anywhere with her. The girl hugged her mother. She hugged her back and called her her beloved daughter and shouted to the man that she will stay here with her mother because her mother is the best in the world. The man said that this child's blood is already stained. He turned around and left, saying that because he refused to return to the young family, he no longer dared to bear this surname, and in the future, he would be forbidden to call himself a member of his family. That day, deep down in his heart, he swore that he would never be a member of the young family. But in spite of them, he continued to bear this surname. Let them see how strong he was without them. She thought that she had now been naive and said goodbye to her mother. Black and purple shadows swept between the mutants, and the girl asked in surprise, who was that mutant zombie growling that he had attacked silently and let him show himself now? Since she didn't see him, Ling Wen Xing thought that the advantage of the assassin was the surprise attack, and she asked him to show himself. Did she really take him for a fool? Then, a notification appeared from the system saying that the class change has been successfully completed in the resulting class, was a class named Assassin. Ling Wen Xing thought that this class appeared very suddenly, and he urgently needed to familiarize himself with the skill notification. Then it appeared from the system where it was written that the stealth skill includes increased flexibility speed. The body hidden by dark energy becomes invisible. The executioner skill includes instant reinforcement of the ability to recognize all enemy weaknesses, and then that it was a reduced flexibility and personality revealed. When used, the mutant zombies growl that he was stupid and he couldn't hide from it. He released 2 jets of red energy to the other mutant zombies killed by Yun Ke Air who were lying nearby, and they recovered almost instantly. The examinee screamed and Frank that, how is it possible that the dead mutant zombie? Suddenly the mutants revolt and completely recover. 2 mutants surround them. The mutant zombies shout that dinner is served for them. Shuji King tells them not to panic as this is just part of the exam. Zhao Lin says, they will just kill them again. Thanks. A fan floats into the air and shoots a flamethrower. The mutant zombies expose a protective field and all the energy flies back to them, then somehow restrain the monster and shout that their strength is on a completely different level. Such is their speed, they try to chop the mutant with his axe. But she was unable to do so. The zombie threw her aside with one punch, When Ling Wen Xing caught the girl and told her to run away faster and handed the rest to him, Yun Ke looked at the young man in admiration. Liu Ting said that it was a very fast shadow, and thought that this power was very similar to the power of the Zombie King, as Li Yuting took off suddenly and ran to the door shouting to Li Young to immediately chase her into the arena. Then Li Young said that they should wait because this shadow is probably the ability of someone from the examinees. You should observe for a while why you are yelling that the point here is not at all in the shadow of the shadow, but the candidate he made does not have the ability to repair himself. An arena employee in a black and orange uniform ran into the room and yelled that the Zombie King class object had been repaired in the arena. Why do you think that if he thinks correctly then the shadow is the Zombie King? The men ran into the corridor and that Li Yuting shouted to the arena attendant to immediately notify all the examinees, for them to go to the safe shelter and notify the Ebola squad of the highest category battle warning, and do everything faster. Then, the man said that he understood everything in the arena. Ling Wen Xing dealt with the mutant zombies. As he prepared to finish off the last monster, heard a call from the speakers for the examinees to leave the arena immediately for a safe place. The young man pushed off the ground and soared into the air, saying that they were mocking him, and he agreed to leave the arena, but only after he finished off the last zombie. He attacked the monster, but it stayed alive and attacked back. Ling Wen Xing thought that this monster was made of iron. He agreed to play with it. He ordered the system to activate the skill called Executioner. Ling Wen Xing plunged his sword into the vulnerable point of the mutant zombie and remained unprotected. Lai Yutang and several helmeted fighters from the special unit called Ebola Machine Point weapons at him. The examiner ordered him not to move and put the weapons on the ground. Later, Ling Wen Xing thought that this was how the lack of skill called Executioner manifested itself. While you ordered him to turn around slowly and do nothing to fool, the black and blue notification window of the system appeared in front of the young man's eyes, where it was written that the cost of reusing the skill called Stealth would be a single button point called Receive appeared at the bottom. Then Ling Wen Xing thought that he no longer had a choice and had to activate a skill called Hiding. That he was hiding in a huge purple whirlwind, had to cover his face with his hands. From the strong wind, he said in amazement. That he had disappeared, the lieutenant ordered the fighters of the special Ebola squad to seal the entire arena and carefully checked every part. Then Liu Yun smiled strangely. Late at night in Ling Wen Xing's room, Liu Yong excitedly asked, "Is it true that he saved Liu Yong with the help of the system and he recognized him?" Ling Wen Xing said that the situation was very tense and he had no time to think at all. He was moving so fast maybe he didn't recognize him, Liu Yong said. That there are various forces at work, and Horizon and Liu Yong are descendants of the Young family from Horizon when they reveal it. They will bring him to the city for experiments. To the man, Ling Wen Xing asked who he was and what he wanted. But the man only said that Ling Wen Xing would find out after following him, and told her that this was an order from Li Yuting. Hearing Li Yuting's name, Ling Wen Xing wondered if he recognized her. The man then asked for Chairman Liu Yong as well. Since he said it was an emergency, the man asked to leave immediately. They finally arrived at the inner city area of Skyline Babel Tower. At the 7th meeting room of Babel Tower, the man asked Ling Wen Xing to wait in the waiting room. After scanning his fingerprints, Ling Wen Xing saw Yun Ke and the others. Ling Wen Xing thought apparently this was the place for participants, and there seemed to be fewer people now. Noticing Ling Wen Xing's arrival, Yun Ke asked where she had gone after the exam ended. Ling Wen Xing said that she went to the sanctuary because they were asked to evacuate to the sanctuary. But Yun Ke said that she didn't see Ling Wen Xing there. Ling Wen Xing once again argued that Yun Ke might not have noticed because it was so crowded and chaotic. Yun Ke felt suspicious and was about to ask something, but Li Yuting had arrived and called for everyone's attention. For the first time, Li Yuting congratulated them for becoming hunters. Although there were some mishaps in the process, she didn't think the results were bad. He then said that he was holding the meeting here because of the emergency situation and told them that Skyline City had decided to make them the founders of Team Lizard. Ling Wen Xing became curious about what Li Yuting meant. Li Yuting then began to announce the exam results. The most perfect one was Yun K-er with a B+. Zhao Lin, Zhou Zhiqiang, and Feng Yufan weren't bad either with a B rating. And the last one, Ling Wen Xing, with a C. Ling Wen Xing thought that not being able to use the system was really difficult. Hearing Ling Wen Xing's results, Zhou Zhiqiang made fun of him by saying that the hunter standard was so low because any level was accepted. Ling Wen Xing got annoyed and thought that if it wasn't for him killing those mutant zombies, then Zhou Zhiqiang would be dead already. Not long after, a notification suddenly appeared. The system gave Ling Wen Xing a mission to defeat the Zombie King. Ling Wen Xing wondered where he could find the Zombie King. After announcing their exam results, Li Yuting introduces Liu Yong, who will be the vice chairman. She tells them that Liu Yong was previously an experienced leader, so she believes Liu Yong can help them to organize better. And next, Li Yuting will introduce their chairman. With the overall ranking, it was decided that Ye Zilan would be their team leader. Ling Wen Xing was surprised to see Ye Zilan. She thought that Ye Zilan had not been a hunter for long. Li Yuting then told her that Yun K-er had performed well in the selection process. She had good experience and combat skills because in the exam, Ye Zilan eliminated many mutant zombies. Hearing Li Yuting's words made Ye Zilan remember what she did during the exam. At that time, she told another disciple to go to the Resource Replenishment Center and grab some resources, and that disciple also became a victim of mutant zombies. With a sly smile, Ye Zilan thought that she could defeat the mutant zombie alone, but that low-ranked trash disciple was the best bait to attract mutant zombies for Ye Zilan. With her seemingly sincere smile, Ye Zilan asked everyone to trust her, as she would make the Skyline City Lizard team the strongest team. Seeing that Ye Zilan was the team leader, Ling Wen Xing was sure that Ye Zilan must have used dirty and evil tricks to become the leader. After this conversation ended, Li Yuting said that she had to go and investigate some matters, so she would leave the training and fighting to the two leaders. After the meeting, at the hunter exam training area, Liu Yong was surprised to hear Ye Zilan's decision that Ling Wen Xing had to train up to C rank in order to participate in the fight. Ye Zilan also said that this was so that she would be stable and not just go out to kill herself in battle. Liu Yong doesn't understand since they already have some people. He thinks that if Ling Wen Xing doesn't get any fighting experience, it will be harder for him to get stronger. But Ye Zilan insisted on telling Ling Wen Xing to train up to C rank and get permission to fight. Yun K-er became annoyed with Ye Zilan's behavior. She said that Ye Zilan was a disgusting and annoying person. Just because she had some authority, she gave orders as she pleased. To stop their argument, Ling Wen Xing said that it was okay because it was the chairman's order, and accepted Ye Zilan's order. Seeing Ling Wen Xing like that, Ye Zilan also said that weak people have weak thoughts. Seeing Ling Wen Xing's state, Yun K-er took Ling Wen Xing to sneak out. When Ling Wen Xing was worried that they might get into trouble, Yun K-er asked if she was afraid of Ye Zilan. Ling Wen Xing replied that it would never happen, but she just wanted to tell Liu Yong first because if there was any trouble, they could help each other. However, Yun K-er disagrees and says that Ling Wen Xing just needs to kill a few mutant zombies and bring their heads to the team leader. She was sure they would keep their mouths shut. A moment later, Yun K-er suddenly felt the presence of something. Upon checking, Yun K-er saw a zombie. From its size and type, Yun K-er thought that it looked like a normal zombie. Yun K-er took out her axe and invited Ling Wen Xing to kill the zombie quickly, but suddenly the zombie disappeared. The zombie was behind them in an instant. The zombie asked if they were looking for him. Liu Yong was surprised to hear the report that Ling Wen Xing and Yun K-er left the training base. Zhao Lin then reported that on top of that, a high-ranking zombie-like aura was detected around. Presumably it was the Zombie King. Liu Yong wondered what Ling Wen Xing and Yun K-er were up to. Liu Yong ordered Zhao Lin and Zhou Zhiqiang to follow him to find Ling Wen Xing and Yun K-er. At that moment, Ye Zilan became thinking about Ling Wen Xing. However, realizing that Feng Yufan didn't follow them, Ye Zilan asked why he didn't go with them. Feng Yufan replied that it was because Ye Zilan was the chairman. He then says that Liu Yong may be talented and strong, but he is not the chairman. Instead, Ye Zilan is the chairman. So he believed that Ye Zilan might have something special, so he decided to side with the right side. Hearing that, Ye Zilan acted cute and said that she was almost embarrassed by his praise. Since Liu Yong decided to side with her, Ye Zilan ordered Feng Yufan to go and keep an eye on them and not let them make trouble. Feng Yufan said that he would do so. In the place where Ling Wen Xing and Yun Ke were, Yun Ke was currently fighting with the zombie. The zombie also said that even though Yun Ke's body was small, she had a strong attack. Feeling the zombie's strong power, Yun Ke thought that she was not an ordinary zombie. She was even sure that this zombie was stronger than ordinary mutant zombies. Because of that, Yun Ke told Ling Wen Xing to run quickly, because this wasn't a normal zombie while she was buying time. Ling Wen Xing was unsure of what to do. Then, the zombie's hand suddenly pierced through Yun Ke's axe, making Yun Ke shocked. The zombie then grabbed Yun Ke's neck and threw her high. The zombie then jumped up and was about to hit Yun Ke. However, it was stopped by someone. Ling Wen Xing, who had changed his profession to architect, stopped the zombie's punch. Ling Wen Xing apologized because the zombie failed to show off. Ling Wen Xing then hit the zombie with his hammer. Using this opportunity, Ling Wen Xing used it to secure Yun Ke. Now, he thought that the most important thing now was to kill this monster. As the zombie lunged towards Ling Wen Xing changed his profession to assassin and pitted their attacks. In the middle of their fight, the zombie said that Ling Wen Xing was the first person to make a zombie king like him fight seriously. Ling Wen Xing was surprised to hear that his opponent was the zombie king. In this battle, Ling Wen Xing felt that this was the power of the zombie king. The zombie king attacked Ling Wen Xing with his spear relentlessly. As he was about to attack with his claws, the zombie king said if Ling Wen Xing continued to dodge and hide, then he would be caught. But Ling Wen Xing dodged his attack and took out his sword to finish off the zombie king. But the zombie king twisted his body, taking Ling Wen Xing by surprise. The zombie king then caught Ling Wen Xing's sword and was about to fire his attack from his third eye. From its third eye, the zombie king shot a laser at Ling Wen Xing. Ling Wen Xing, who blocked the attack with his sword, was blown away. Ling Wen Xing thought that if he hadn't used the sword to block the attack, he was sure that he would have died. The zombie king then provoked Ling Wen Xing by calling him weak. Ling Wen Xing wondered why the hammer was the only thing he could rely on. Because when he turned his weapon into a sword, he couldn't hurt the zombie king at all. However, a notification suddenly popped up telling him that his sword had absorbed the zombie king's attack power and asking if he wanted to continue using it. Ling Wen Xing finally understood why the sword wasn't broken after receiving the attack. He finally decided to use the warrior's original power and kill the zombie king. Ling Wen Xing jumped up and attacked with his sword, but the zombie king blocked Ling Wen Xing's attack by using a barrier field. The zombie king told Ling Wen Xing to surrender, as he believed Ling Wen Xing's current attack power wouldn't be able to hurt him. Ling Wen Xing was astonished as he thought his sword could absorb power, but it had no effect at all. With his protective field, the zombie king snapped his fingers and exploded the protective field to blast Ling Wen Xing. Ling Wen Xing was able to avoid the blast by changing his profession to assassin. He thought that the zombie king was really sneaky and wondered if there was no way to defeat him. Suddenly, a notification popped up asking if Ling Wen Xing wanted to activate the newly unlocked profession, magician. Seeing the notification, Ling Wen Xing, who felt cornered, thought that he could only take risks at this time. He activated the magician profession and changed his clothes. Since Ling Wen Xing kept changing his profession, the zombie king thought that this could end badly and decided to end Ling Wen Xing quickly. Ling Wen Xing used his attack magic, Cloud Halberd, to attack the zombie king, but the zombie king blocked Ling Wen Xing's magic with his spear. The zombie king then used magic to attack, and Ling Wen Xing used his defense magic, Wailing Wall. A huge explosion ensued. Feng Yufan saw that, so he intended to rush over there before Liu Yong and the others arrived. Since high-ranked zombies have a lot of treasures, he intends to take some loot so that his fighting ability can increase rapidly. However, Feng Yufan suddenly felt goosebumps. When she looked behind her, there was a mutant zombie talking to her. Surprised to see a mutant zombie that could talk, Feng Yufan took out his cell phone to contact Ye Zilan and the others as soon as possible. However, the mutant zombie unceremoniously attacked and injured Feng Yufan.